Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler. October 15th, St. Euthymius the Younger. St. Eurimio was a Galatian born in Opsos, near Ancyra. He is often called Thessalonian because he was buried in Thessalonica. The nickname the Young distinguishes him from St. Euthymius the Great, who lived 4 centuries before him. Euthymius's baptismal name was Nicetas. He married when he was very young and had a daughter whom he named Anastasia. In 842, when he was barely 18 years old, he abandoned his wife and daughter in circumstances that today we would consider as a desertion, and entered the Laura of Mount Olympus in Bithynia. For some time, he had as director St. Joannicius, a monk of that monastery. Later he chose as director a certain John, who gave him the name of Euthymius. After some time, John sent his disciple to train in the common life in the Monastery of Pisidian, where Euthymius advanced rapidly along the path of sanctity. St. Ignatius, Patriarch of Constantinople, was thrown down from his see by Photius in 858. Abbot Nicholas, who remained faithful to St. Ignatius, was also removed from his office. Euthymius then went to Mount Athos in search of greater tranquility. Before his departure, an ascetic named Theodore conferred upon him the Great Habit, which was the insignia of the highest dignity a monk could attain in the East. Euthymius left with a companion, but the latter could not resist the austerity of the solitary life on Mount Athos, and being left alone, Euthymius went to live with a hermit named Joseph. The biographer of St. Euthymius says that Joseph was a good and frank man, even though he was Armenian. Soon the two hermits began to rival each other in austerity. First they fasted for 40 days, eating nothing but herbs. Then Euthymius proposed that they lock themselves in their cells for 3 years. They did so, and during that time they only went out to gather herbs, rarely spoke to each other, and never to a stranger. Joseph withstood only 1 year, but St. Euthymius lived like this for 3 years. When he came out of his confinement, the other monks congratulated him. In 863, he went to Thessalonica to visit the tomb of Theodore, who before his death had tried in vain to join his disciple on Mount Athos. St. Euthymius dwelt there in a tower, from the top of which he used to preach to the mobs and exercise his powers as an exorcist without leaving his beloved retreat. Before leaving Thessalonica, he received the diaconate. As the pilgrims who came to visit him on Mount Athos began to increase, the saint took refuge with 2 other monks on the little island of St. Eustachius. When the pirates drove them away, St. Euthymius went to join his old friend Joseph and stayed to live with him. Sometime after Joseph's death, St. Euthymius had a vision in which it was revealed to him that he had lived long enough in solitude and was ordered to move to a mountain called Peristera, east of Thessalonica, where he would find the ruins of the ancient monastery of St. Andrew, converted into a refuge for beasts. His mission was to rebuild the monastery and repopulate it. Euthymius set out with the monks Ignatius and Ephraim and found the monastery ruined and transformed into a stable. He immediately undertook the reconstruction of the church and the cells. Soon the community began to multiply, and St. Euthymius served as abbot for 14 years. At the end of that period, he left for his hometown of Opsos, where he recruited a large number of men and women, including several of his relatives, and founded 2 monasteries. Once both foundations were underway, the saint placed them in the hands of the Metropolitan of Thessaloniki and retired to end his days in the solitude of Mount Athos. When he felt the time of his death approaching, he gathered the other hermits to celebrate with them the feast of the translation of their patron, St. Euthymius the Great. Then he took leave of them and departed with the monk George for the Holy Island. There he died peacefully 5 months later, on October 15, 898. One of the monks of Peristera, named Basil, who was later Metropolitan of Thessalonica, wrote the biography of St. Euthymius. In his work, he relates several miracles of his master, some of which he had witnessed and even benefited from. To show the gift of prophecy of St. Euthymius, Basil tells that when he was making the customary retreat, after taking the habit, Euthymius went to visit him and said, "I am absolutely unworthy of the lights of the Most High. However, as your director, God has revealed to me that the love of science is going to tear you away from the monastery and make of you an archbishop." Basil adds, "Indeed, later on ambition led me to prefer the whirlwind of active life to monastic peace and solitude."